Really, my goal, I guess, really, I want to give them the tools to be independent humans. And hopefully I've prepared them with enough of those tools that they can flap their wings and fly and be on their own and know that, if they get in trouble, I'm here. And just trying to maintain that, not being too much of a friend, but maintaining that. To me, it's important that they have that open line of communication, that they feel comfortable coming to me, and I've read some great books about how to be a good father. Untangled, Tangled, I think is the name, or Tangled. Love that book. And how to communicate with your daughter, and because it's a different conversation with the daughter than it is with the son, right? And so I've tried to realize that it's two different people, and making sure that if something happens to my daughter, I told her the other day, I'm not so concerned about the decisions that you make, because I know you're a smart girl and we've talked and we have an open conversation. I'm concerned about the drunk friend of a friend, right? That comes over and makes a bad decision, and know that you can always pick up the phone and call me. I'm not going to judge. I just want you to be safe, and your safety is the most important thing, right? Like, that's a little bit of a different conversation with the boys, right? So understanding what conversation you're having with each one is a little bit different, right? And the discussion with my 17-year-old son, it's, hey man, no is no, and don't make that decision, and don't be one of those guys, and you're going to succumb to peer pressure to do stupid things, because you don't want to be that guy that I'm telling your sister about, right? You don't want to be that drunk guy that's doing stupid things over at some, it's just different conversations that we have with them, and understanding. And so no, I do want them to go off and be independent people. And whether it's a challenge in sports, it's I want you to handle that. I'm not many times as my wife, or I want to pick up and call the soccer coach because blah, 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 blah didn't happen. No, you've got to handle that on your own. That's how you become a man, and that's how you become an adult. We're just here we can be a sounding board, but you got to handle that, and you got to have that difficult conversation. That's how you grow. I can't hover over you and do that for you.
No kidding.
You got to do that.
Yeah. I remember there was a time when I was in high school where I got a grade on my report card that came back, and it made no sense. Like, it was like a 56 on my report card. And I was like, I don't understand this at all. And so I talked to my mom and convinced her. Had my dad been there and I talked to my dad, it probably would have gone a little differently. But I just went to my mom and I said, hey, I don't understand this. And rather than have me go and talk to the teacher about it or try to figure out what it was, she just wrote me a letter wrote a letter to the teacher and blah, 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 explaining how this just didn't make any sense, and all, like, everything that I told her. Never got the other side of the story. And then all of a sudden my grade changed. And I was passing, everything was fine, and I thought to myself, "Oh yeah, that's because you did the wrong, like you missed X, Y, or Z, and I was right this whole time." And I looked back at it afterwards. I think I barely joined the Air Force, and I didn't understand a couple of the different things. It was like, hey, why did I have my mom do this? Why did my mom even do that for me? Right? She should have been like, hey, no, we got to go figure this out together. Like, you need to understand what's going on. And B, I didn't really know the true story. Like, did I actually miss assignments? Was there something missing? And to this day, I still don't know. I know that I wasn't pleased about that. But I think that the way I'm now interpreting that as a father is like, no, I need to make sure that my kids are able to face those things and able to go ask those questions. It's not run to mommy for help, which in a way, that's exactly what I did. I just ran to mommy for help and tried to, like, can you fix this problem for me? Like, no, I need to teach you to face problems yourself. You're going to have them in life. Like, you're bound to have problems in life. And I'm not going to know what the problems are, but if I could teach you to think critically, if I could teach you to understand that you can make it through any problem, our family motto, basically, it's not officially written down, but is stay calm and work through the problem. Whatever the problem is, just stay calm and work through the problem. And one of my business partners, he and I have both been through some stuff where we're like, hey, ain't nobody dying today, right? Like, there's no problem here today where somebody's getting shot at. I got no bullets flying over my head. There's nobody going to die today. We can figure this out, right? I mean, so it's extremely important to me to make sure that my kids know that regardless, I'm always there for them, right?
Yeah.
I will always be there for them, but it doesn't mean you can't try to figure something out yourself. And man, I don't know. That's a difficult. It's a difficult thing to balance too.
Well, and I struggle because I sit here all day, right? I'm in the chair, not literally, but people just bring me problems, and I'm so programmed to solve them immediately. Okay. And, my brain's like, okay, before you even finish telling me your problem, I'm like, here's your solution. And you just can't be that way with your kids. And
or your wife, by the way.
Yes. Very important. Very important. Very important. But and sometimes it is with your kids. You just want to say, well, just do this, this, and this. It's talking to them and talking through the problem, and how do you want to handle it? Or is it worth getting mad about? Maybe they're mad about the way a peer treated them or something. Or, are they being a good friend? Is it reciprocal? Like, let's just talk through it and walk through. And then, ultimately, hopefully you've helped them lead themselves to their own decision. And, you don't want to make the decision for them.
Yeah. I mean, even if I really want to, I won't. Right? So, like even this morning, we were doing a spelling test with my oldest. And I think the word was, I remember it's like accountability or something. But he misspelled one of the words, and I can't remember what it was. Characteristic. I think it was characteristic. And he was like broken over missing this word. And I'm thinking to myself, what have I I think some of that came from school, because he had a lot of pressure in school to make sure that he was doing really, really well. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I got to figure out how to be able to work through those, to not make every misspelling word be a terrible thing, or every missed problem be no, this is an opportunity for you to learn. This is an opportunity for you to grow. It's an opportunity to get better, and just let the stress go. And I haven't quite mastered that down yet. I'm still trying to figure that out on how I can communicate better with him, especially at the moment, to not take all this on his shoulders all the time. Like the world is falling just because of whatever thing going wrong. It happens in golf too, right? You get one bad shot and it turns into one bad hole. One bad hole turns into one bad round. And it's like, well, how do we work through this together as a team? And I'm the problem solver, and I'm just like, this is just what you have to do. And that is not helpful.
Well, it's hard to let your children fail once in a while. Yeah. Right? It doesn't feel good, but it's okay to have adversity. And, I always try to find the good and, the gap in the gain, right? Like, hey, it's okay. Our situation, let's have a little gratitude. Our situation, whether it's soccer or, we're doing okay here. Like, you have to play a lot, and just because they didn't play 100% of the game doesn't make it bad. It's okay. There's still, we're doing okay, right? Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, and we're not keeping score. The scorecard thing is crazy that kids do, right? Like, he gets so and so, and I get this and this. It's like teaching them not to keep the scorecard, right? Like, life isn't perfect. Life isn't always fair, and we keep the scorecard between husband and wife sometimes. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, that doesn't help anything. And teaching the kids not to keep the scorecard. It's not even Steven all the time, and sometimes the even Steven in the family was always tough, and it isn't. Life isn't always fair, and it's okay to teach your kids that, because it isn't.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? There's a friend of ours. She always tells her kids, fair is what you pay to get on the bus. That's the only fair that we have, right? That's what you pay to get on the bus. But you made me take a note. I gotta read The Gap and the Gain again. Like, I just have to get back into that. That's such a phenomenal book. And they should make a Gap at the Gain for kids, and maybe I should just reach out to them, write it for them, because what a phenomenal book that is.
Totally.
I love it. So if anybody listening has not listened to The Gap and the Gain, I can't remember who wrote it.
I think it's I said that thing about Ben Hardy. Yeah. Ben Hardy and somebody. Yeah. Like, sometimes I just go into Audible and put on The Gap and the Gain and listen to a couple chapters, right? Like, just to touch back into, a little flyby into it, just to get a little bit, because it's so good to put that perspective into your life. And, I have that. I talk about The Gap and the Gain with the kids, just like, let's live, the gain. We're all right, man. It's all right.
Yeah. And I think, so I'm pondering through right now with golf with my son, right? And the distance that he's made and how much better he is now at golf. And he doesn't see it because he sees himself every week, right? It's the same thing. Like if you see, if you have the puppy in your house growing up, you don't see necessarily the massive changes, but somebody comes to your house 2 weeks later and they're like, dude, your puppy is huge, right? So I get to see it and go, wow, you've made a massive gain in your golf game. I think one thing I need to do is take better notes of what he's doing. Like, hey, this is how far you've been driving, and this is what you've been doing, and this is what this is how many pars you got, and this is how many bogeys you had, and that way he can hopefully see the gain a little bit more than just the gap of where he wants to be. But
you got any if you just shoot a couple little videos, and if you string together a couple of those videos, maybe of him doing that, might be really powerful to be like, look at that.
Yeah, that's valid. Yeah, for sure. And because I've got lots of those. So
string together a couple of those, that might be a real cool thing for him to visualize and see like, wow,